stream.
Nothing I can do but stay out of sight. With every touch, makes my stomach feeling easy. She says my name and my thoughts get crazy. There's nothing I want more than this tonight. Lips the color of poison dark frog. Eyes the blue of my deepest fantasies. Such craving keeps getting away. Sweet like antifreeze. She's got this voice that moves down from the hill, and it is sense man and bodies and kills. I die for a word from those lips. There is no allowance for other agendas, and we always decided someone to defend us. But it all fades later, she wiggles those hips.
Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm here, and I got my my incredibly awesome friend, the legendary Foad. How you doing, brother? People can see you.
Oh, perfect. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Yeah, things are crazy, but things are good. So yeah, everyone, this is Foad. He's I guess one would call you perfect human being, amazing soul, rad as all fuck, and just I'm excited. This is gonna be a real treat. I even bought fancy beer for this one instead of my usual Lucky Lager.
Perfect. Awesome.
So what's been going on, man?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, I don't know about all that, but I'm definitely sure that the talk here is going to be good and cool and everything. So
that I have no
I'm
doubt.
certain about. Yeah,
I have absolutely no doubt. Sorry, I'm just sending links and stuff, letting the world know
Hopefully.
that we're on.
They should know. I mean.
They should, but, they're only human. We do have one concurrent viewer, which is probably my TV.
Okay, good enough. We can work with that.
Yeah, absolutely. My TV's people. And we are live. Paste. Post. All right. Well, we'll go with that. So far, we're doing good. We got my TV watching us. We got the Discord chat, which is currently empty, and you got you and me. That's all that really matters is you and me. This is the whole point. Yeah.
Yes.
So what's been going on, my buddy? It is so good to see your face.
I know, man. Yeah, it's been a long time actually. I don't even remember when the last time was that I saw you.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
It's probably been. Well, bars would have been open and regular at the time, so it's been like well over a year.
Definitely. Yeah, probably summer of 2019. It might have been the last time. I'm guessing.
Yeah. I was going to correct you, and then I was like, no, it's 2021 because time has no meaning here in COVID.
No, it's all relative. It doesn't really matter anymore.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely.
No. Crazy times for sure. It's really all about the best you can make out of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's really easy to get overwhelmed.
Oh God, yeah. Have you been working and stuff, or?
Yeah, I'm still working. We've been working from home since December, I think. It
Mm-hmm.
was when they kind of put in the new restrictions and whatnot. But yeah, still working at home or from home, and then we'll see. I guess I'm guessing if nothing changes in the next month or so, they're gonna get us going back to the office.
Yeah, I have that vibe too. I feel like that's there's a ticking sound that says that the office life is coming back, which I'm okay with because I don't want to be around other people, but I do really like being able to like walk to work. That sounds like such a dumb thing, but it's massive for me. Walking to work is it's like my favorite thing in the whole wide world, and not being able to do it has made me fat. There's no nicer way to put it. It's just made me fat.
I'm kind of in the same boat. I mean, I wasn't walking to work, but all the walking that you do when you're at work or in lunchtime and all that sort of stuff, especially if you're in downtown, that obviously helps. So, yeah, I'm not getting that kind of exercise and activity anymore. So it's not helping here either.
Yeah, no, totally. It's and it's it makes it frustrating too. Like I actually was chatting with Freud 2 nights ago. We did a yammer, and I committed that I'm gonna engage him to help me with some of the stuff that I can do at home because I don't have like gym equipment or whatever. And as a result, I've just gotten fat and lazy. Actually, I'm not even fat. I think I'm losing weight because I'm not eating because I don't use calories. So I feel like I'm, calories are not for people who don't use them. So I shouldn't eat. Probably not the best plan. Like I haven't eaten yet today. It's 7:05 and I still haven't consumed any food. Gonna order pizza after this is done because that'll fix everything. Pizza's the right choice.
Of course, yeah, it always does. And you're lucky that you can function that way. Because if that was me, I would have been kind of out of it 6-7 hours ago.
I have a weird relationship with both food and sleep, and I'm very grateful for this. But when I figured out how to sort of be me in the world, I figured out that you could not eat and like survive. I have some stores obviously, but literally when I eat breakfast, I am like slow and it's difficult all day, and then I have a day where I eat lunch and dinner and I'm actually great. Only one meal a day is pretty stupid, and even I know better than that. But it was a crazy day. And then around 2:00, with all the weather changes, I got that massive migraine that comes for many of us Albertans. And so I decided that it would be fun to spend the day having a nap, because that's the only thing I can do in those moments, or drink beer. And I didn't think it was a good plan.
Sometimes you get to experiment. Figure out what works at the moment. But I mean, at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with any of that. Whatever works for you is just, and you don't have any problem with it. You can definitely go about doing it that way. Yeah, just for me personally, and I kind of go through those too. That sometimes, like for example, I don't eat dinner or something like that. But like the one thing that I definitely absolutely need to have is breakfast. If I don't eat breakfast, the day is ruined right from the beginning. So,
and I literally can't eat breakfast. If I eat breakfast, I'm just like sluggish all day.
Wow, that's amazing. Because I'm completely the opposite. If I don't, then I can't do anything. Because the thing is that I can't drink coffee if I don't eat breakfast, and if I don't drink coffee, then I am useless.
Yeah, then the world better watch the fuck out.
Please. Well, the fun thing is that I don't even have any sort of mood or energy to talk to anyone, so it's just
You're not a monster. You're just stuck with no capacity to do things. I totally get that. My morning is every morning I get up either to the first or somewhere up to the 9th alarm, somewhere in there. Usually the first, to be fair. And then I throw on a pot of coffee, I go outside, have a smoke, come in, my pot of coffee is brewed enough that I can have a cup, and I'll sit and I'll drink most of a pot of coffee before the sun comes up. Probably not the healthiest of choices, but it works for me.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's all that matters, at the end of the day, because a lot of these kind of health advices and whatever, that sort of stuff, you never know if it actually generally really works for everyone either. They do say that this is healthy and that's not, but does it really does it make sense for every individual? I would be, what do you call it? I would say that, some there would be at least one person you can find that would probably not work for them and wouldn't be exactly healthy for them. So,
Oh yeah,
at the end
absolutely.
of the day, yeah.
I feel like I'm the exception that proves most rules, right? I'm the guy that gets, I'm now up to like 5 hours sleep a night. As I'm
Mhm.
getting older, I'm slowing down, but it used to be 3.5. And literally, if I had more than that, I was just a fucking mess.
That's funny because the thing with me is that I usually don't really get more than like if I get 7, I've slept a lot. It's
Yeah.
usually around 6.5. But yeah, anything less than that, it kind of works the other way for me. I'm not really in a good mood afterwards. And I just can't sleep more than 7 hours, it seems, even if I don't have to get up or anything, I just get up
Yeah.
and I can't sleep through it. Yeah. But no, I remember that even back in the bar days, you seemed like, you would work the night and then go to work the next day or something like that. And yeah.
Not no.
it-
Usually, if what I would do is I would like work the day and then work the night, and then like that
Mhm.
would be Friday. Like when I was working Thursday nights, I would usually take Friday morning off.
Okay.
There was a time when I used to do that, and I remember when it all changed. There was like I used to be able to go close the bar down on a Wednesday night and not give a fuck and be at work on Thursday morning. And I remember there was a Real Mackenzie show. I was super stoked to go to it. And my friend Jizzy and I went. We're like, yeah, we're having fun. And then, closed the bar, made sure she got home okay, got home myself, went to bed, woke up, my alarm's going off. And I'm like, God, I'm so good at life. And I go to hit my alarm and I'm like, it's noon. Oh my God, what the fuck just happened? And that was like literally the first time that I couldn't just reliably like, okay, I'll set my alarm for 3 hours from now. I'll be up, all ready for work and good to go. Throw some coffee in me
Yeah.
and away I fucking chug. And now I'm like, yeah, real slow moving when it comes to that shit. But yeah, 3 hours is no longer enough for me.
Yeah.
It's
No,
a
no,
goddamn
definitely.
shame.
No, I remember some of those nights that I would leave the bar, later, but still before you guys, and I would still sleep through till afternoon even.
Yeah.
But you guys were up and ready, running or whatever, like hours
I'm
before I did.
Yeah, I used to, so I would, because I don't drive, right?
Mhm.
So I had figured out when the first train going north was coming, and it was
Okay,
around, I think it was around 5:30 a.m. So that's when I would leave Distortion when we were working together. As bar
right.
closed at 2. We finished cleaning 2:33, 3:30, depending on how, chaotic it was.
Yeah.
And then I would sit and I would just chill and have a beer and relax, and everyone would chat, and eventually everyone would leave. And usually it was just me or like me and Katie or, whatever. But most of the time, a lot of the time, it was just me for like 45 minutes or an hour just in a giant empty bar by myself. And I was like, this is so lovely. I want this forever. I want to own a bar that never opens. Um,
Yeah.
and then I would go hop on the train, go home, and fall asleep. So I get to bed around 6 in the morning, and I'd be up by 10 or 11,
Yeah.
and ready for my day, kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's how I'm wired. It's not a
Yeah.
good
No, I
thing or a
mean,
bad thing.
No, exactly. It probably wouldn't work for most people,
Oh
but
yeah,
it does
yeah,
for you, and that way
yeah.
you're kind of using pretty much your whole day. Really, if you're only getting 3-4 hours of sleep, then you have the whole day to do things
And
that
yeah, and people
yeah,
often used to ask me like, "How do you do all the things you do?" And the answer I never told anyone was, "You don't sleep." But that is the answer. People who are
yeah,
on meth know this. They're like, "Oh yeah, yeah, I can go for weeks on end without doing anything. It's really good."
yeah. No, no,
Oh,
exactly. Yeah, that's how you get the extra hour.
mm-hmm. So I have a
Yeah,
theory. I have a theory. So you
sure.
have a day job. You've had it as long as I've known you, I believe, or variations thereof.
Yep.
I believe you're like me. I believe that you got working in the bar not out of a fiscal responsibility or necessity, but it was like this opportunity presented itself, and you were like, Bouncing in a live music venue sounds like a whole pile of good times. I could do that. I could get paid to listen to music. That sounds good. Am I right?
More or less, yeah. Yeah, I remember because I think initially when I met Mark, I mean, I knew of you guys and everything because I'd been um, to the distillery and those places, for many different shows and all that.
And also,
But I
we're
met
huge
him.
celebrities.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
But I met him when I was helping out with Noctis.
Yep.
Yeah. And then also with some of the, I used to be friends with some of the dubstep DJs around.
Yep.
So I would kind of hang out with those guys at the distillery as well and all that. So yeah, Mark, eventually this was, I can't remember, was it in 2016 or 2017? I can't remember. So yeah, one time he saw me there and he's like, "Yo, you wanna come help out here?" Like, pretty much as you said. I was like, "Yeah, sure, why not?"
Yep.
I At the time I was unemployed as well. I got laid off in 2015 from my oil and gas job, and so yeah, I didn't have any actual job at the time. So I was like, "Yeah, sure, why not? Let's do this." And the rest, as they say, is history, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for me it was very similar. It was I was working the whole time, and it started off with Mark was in a pinch and he needed some more bouncers for a show, and I was like, I don't know how to fucking bounce, and he's like, yeah, you do. And realistically, I mean, I've been a bouncer for fucking years just from running shows, right? And I was like, yeah,
Right.
you're probably right. I could probably do this. And I came and helped out on a couple shows. I remember just being fucking livid. The first night I ever helped out was at D2, and well, officially helped out.
Right.
Mark calls me up that day. He's like, I'm fucked tonight. Can you come to the bar for 8 and bounce? And I was like, I'll be there as close to 8 as I can, but I don't know. And I got there, and it was like 8:15, and Philly was in one of Philly's moods.
Yeah, yeah.
And I came in, and he's like, "You're fucking late," and like giving me the gears, and I'm like, "Dude, I'm helping you out here tonight. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?" And he's like, "Oh, you're helping us out. Oh, everyone, did you hear? Jim's helping us out. We don't have to pay him." I was like, "Fuck you, motherfucker! Like, I love you to pieces, but I'm gonna murder you right now."
Yeah, yeah. No, I believe that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
No, that was a good one. That was a good time. That whole place, the D2, I think it just the whole vibe there and everything was good spot. I
Yeah,
think
absolutely.
you don't even know what it is now. Like they built that building on top of it, but I'm not sure. It's probably like a garage or something down there now. It's no longer.
It's literally yeah, and that's a fucking crime. Like before that happened, you know Karina, my ex girlfriend, she used to run the beer corps with us and everything. So she had the idea in her head that we needed to make this a whole historic site because it was actually
Okay.
Calgary's first live music venue. Like that old sound dome over there, like that was all like intentionally. We were building a live music venue for Calgary 100 years ago.
Right. Okay.
And so she was sort of researching when all that craziness happened with the people that owned the building, who I won't mention by name, but their name does rhyme with Fanulife Financial. Fuck those people because they ruined so many good things. But yeah, when they decided they were going to trash the building and kick everybody out, and then build the shiny empty skyscraper, we were like, no, we need to make sure that doesn't happen. Like this should be a historic site. It's 100 years of live music in Calgary. Like that's an important thing. And yeah, there was no traction there. Turns out this city doesn't give fuck number one about heritage. So unless of course
No.
it's white Christian heritage, in which case if that had been a church, we'd
Okay.
still be drinking there.
Most likely, and even those, I guess it depends on who owns it and who wants to do what with it.
Yep.
And even those, I mean, there's exceptions there too. You can even destroy those kind of buildings. But no, I mean it definitely is criminal almost the way
Oh,
they
for
treat
sure.
older places and buildings.
Yep. I found
Yeah.
when I was 15 years old, I got the opportunity to go across country. My grandparents had died and had left a small amount of money to my parents. My mom was in university, so she had the summer off. My dad was a school teacher, so he had the summer off. And it was like all the things aligned, and we could afford to drive all the way across, swim in both oceans in one summer. Amazing experience. And what I found interesting was how different the world was. Like once you got to Eastern Canada, there were things that were like over 50 years old. Like houses and properties and shit that had been around longer than my parents. Like, which sounds ridiculous, but growing up in Calgary, like when you think of an old house in Calgary, generally you're thinking like World War II era. And and now like you go there's houses that are like 300 years old. Well, maybe not 300 years old, but you know what I mean? Like a whole lot more history. We tend to pave over it here. I think we have a guilty conscience about how our history's played out in Western Canada, because our history really is like we got here and we were like, hey, let's ruin all the Indigenous people's lives and just be dicks. And so we lie about it and we go, oh yeah, we came here to really help the poor Native Americans who are struggling with their alcohol addiction and all that shit that we fucking tell kids. Just bullshit.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, I mean, don't quote me on this because I don't really know, but I would be surprised if there's actually a history of them consuming alcohol to any level or extent before the Europeans showed up.
I don't believe, like, I think that every culture has a relationship with alcohol in some way, but especially like the people who lived in the plains of North America, you didn't have fucking time to be like brewing, you know, fancy drinks and shit. Like, no, you were hunter gatherers, you were running after buffalo, and like, you know, the native groups that are native. I'm still saying that. I'm trying. The indigenous people who live in like the West Coast, like in like why is my brain empty suddenly? You know what I mean? Why is my brain empty? What's that?
Don't count on me because I don't know either.
Fair enough. Haida.
Okay.
So the native indigenous peoples who live in Haida, because they had access to a reliable source of food long term in fish, they developed a lot more of what we think of in terms of like native culture, things like totem poles and stuff. We had that, I think, to some degree, and I'm no expert. I'm a honky, but we had that here. Yeah, shut up, honky. But it was so much less so, and it was simply because the life here was a harder life. It was a life of hunting and gathering, because there wasn't an abundant amount of food just lying around. And so a lot of the things that we think of as like native culture are actually like indigenous culture from the West Coast, or indigenous culture from various other places. Indigenous culture in where we're at was certainly plenty of culture, but it was a lot more mobile and a lot less of the idea of like we should brew some beer, because who's got fucking time to carry around a thing of beer when you're chasing herds across the fucking plains? Like, it's just not a thing.
No, exactly. Yeah.
That said, I'm sure that there was stuff that that they were not new to alcohol when the white men came, but I was talking about this the other night with Freud, and how the story that we had told to us was that there's like this genetic code within indigenous people that makes them alcoholics and all this shit. Like, super really good science,
Right, of course, yeah.
When in
No,
fact, what it is someone came up and sold them liquor, and they were like, liquor's good, kind of like everyone else on fucking earth is like, yeah, I like liquor.
right.
And there was, I do believe there was some problems with the American traders who were acting like assholes and selling shitty whiskey and all that kind of stuff. But the story
Yeah.
we have of the heroic white man trotting in on his Canadian police mounted horse thing and going like, I shall kick out the alcohol smugglers and everyone will love me, I don't think maybe is the most accurate
No,
view of history.
no, most likely not. I mean, in
Yeah.
all honesty, their kind of like widespread introduction and the consequence of the addiction, all that sort of stuff. It probably happened in the last 70, 80 years or so,
Yeah.
when they kind of started. Because I mean, I don't know about this, but did we go through a prohibition as well here in Canada, or was it just in
No.
the States?
No, just in the
No.
States. We and in fact, all of that prohibition liquor, a good chunk of it came from Canada.
From Canada, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, makes sense. So yeah, I mean, it seems more of a kind of a modern sort of problem with them, as it would be, something that existed for hundreds of years. I don't think that was the case. So
No.
yeah, no,
And
there's
go ahead.
no, yeah. So I just want to say that what you were saying. Yeah, I don't think there's anything to do with the fact that they're more receptive of the alcohol or anything like that. No, it's just as you said. When you kind of provide that to a group of people, and then I mean, it could happen to anyone. It could happen to anyone from any nationality or race. That you give them that sort of substance, and then they don't really have any other thing to do, and it could be anything. It could be alcohol. It could be drugs. It could be opiates or anything like that, and it's going to start affecting them and their lifestyle in
Well,
negative ways. So
and certainly in more modern times, right, where indigenous people were, as part of Treaty 7, were basically like, here's a little space for you. You're good there. You're gonna stay. We'll call it a reservation. It'll be really wonderful. And that disruption of their way of life, the depression that comes from that, and from the world completely changing on you, like alcohol is a way we deal with depression. So yeah, it's not at all a shock that people had struggles and stuff. It made me think though, there was, and I don't know if this is valid or not. So don't quote me on this. You can quote me on it all you want, and I'll just be like, I'm a fucking idiot.
Sure,
I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But apparently there was a South American indigenous group that archaeologists kept finding these interesting sort of flute-looking things, but they didn't have like finger holes. They knew they weren't flutes, and they couldn't really figure out what the hell this thing was until they found a bowl that went with it, and it actually all kind of pieced together. And apparently, and this could be some bullshit racist story or something that I'm telling, so hopefully not, but apparently this particular group, what they would do is they would pour like a corn mash into this bowl, and the corn mash was now alcoholic because it had been fermenting. And they would use the fluty thing to like slurp up some of the corn mash, stick the flute in the corn hole, and shoot the goo into the person's asshole. I don't know if this is true, but it was something that I read once. I think it was in the Naked Ape, but I could be wrong. But it was talking about this as a the only documented example of a society interacting with alcohol in a way that it had to be a social experience, because no one's going to stick a flute up their own ass and splurk the corn goo. I don't know if it's true, but it's a cool story.
No, exactly. Yeah, no, the dynamics of doing that to yourself is kind of complicated. It wouldn't be as straightforward. But yeah, no, I wonder how they came up with that explanation for all that, because That sounds oddly specific,
Well, and from what I understand, if from the book, is that the art on some of these bowls
Mm,
essentially depicted this is what we're doing now, is we're sticking this in the asshole and bloop. And again, I don't know if it's true. The Naked Ape, I think that's where I got the story from, and it's not really valid anymore. It's one of those books of anthropology that came out a long, long time ago before we knew a lot of things about anthropology. So
yeah,
it may not be an accurate story, but I like the idea of that. I like the idea not of people shooting liquor in each other's assholes, but that concept of a people going, well, how do we do this without drinking alone? Because I'm drinking alone.
right. Well, I guess part of the problem was that they couldn't actually turn it into a liquid to drink it, so it was more like a liquid solid sort of mixture
Like a gooey
of some
mash.
kind.
Yeah, which
Yeah,
probably
and
was
then
was deeply repellent to the taste.
probably that too. Um, but I mean, the that is one of the areas that you can really quickly and efficiently, absorb any sort of substance. So, you know,
But then
I
I
I
but then I
wonder how.
wonder how they were like, you know what I bet? Tastes like shit. Maybe if we put it where shit comes from. Like, I don't know
Yeah,
how that thought would occur to somebody to be like, maybe if we stick it up our asshole, things will
yeah.
be things will be fun. Or it could just be
I
that
mean,
somebody was like, use that as lube, and then they
mhm.
got super drunk afterwards and they were like, well, that was all right. Who knows? Who
I was gonna.
knows?
Yeah, exactly. No, I was gonna say that typically these sort of things, happen by accident. So maybe I don't know, as you said, someone was trying to use some kind of lube, or they fell into it, with a bare ass, or who knows, man. And
Yeah.
then they're like, "Oh, I'm really fucked up. Maybe if you should try doing this,
Yeah, it
yeah, we
tastes
could have a good
bad, but
time."
man, it goes up. It goes down hard, but it goes up real good. You never know, right?
Oh,
I mean, that's what
yeah.
it boils
Well,
down to. Is people are ridiculously ingenuitous, especially when it comes
mm.
to getting fucked up.
That's very true, actually. That's very true. I mean, that's how the idea of drinking alcohol really came about. That again, I'm sure it was some sort of accident. They had a sip of some sort of fermented liquid, and they're like, "Oh, this is interesting. Maybe we can work on this and drink it in, in larger quantities and see what happens."
Totally, totally.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's funny to think about like those early friars discovering, or the women that were around them, from what I understand is actual history.
Mm.
Um, but those first people discovering this and comparing that with the story of the guy who um, basically figured out that acid was a hallucinogen. Are you familiar with that tale?
Yeah, yeah, that was Albert Hoffman. He was a doctor, I mean, a pharmaceutical doctor, I guess, doing research in Basel, Switzerland. And then I think what he was testing was the some was it yeast? I think from wheat crops or something like that, some form of yeast or something like that from the wheat crops. And then yeah, so he was testing those, and then accidentally one day he, I think, either got some of it on his hand or touched some of them, and then on the bicycle ride home he started tripping and realized that this was probably the effect of what he had just absorbed through his skin, and then started looking into it and did some more research and experimentation, and then yeah, realized that LSD is what's contained here, and it does interesting things to you.
Yes. So now
Yeah,
I've,
yeah.
I've just so you know, I've done the magic thing where I switched over to my webcam so I can go for smoke
Oh,
without
sweet, nice.
interrupting anything. Yeah, or to my phone. Yeah.
Man, you
So
really, yeah, you've really worked this out. You know exactly when to do it.
it's mom always said, write what you know, right? And I know I want to go for a smoke. So that was one of the first things when I started doing this, I was like, how do I go for a smoke?
Perfect.
There's got to be a way, because a lot of the times the conversations are about an hour, and that's plenty of time to go without. But then there's times where I've gone like 2 hours with people, and I can go 2 hours without a smoke, but I get fucking surly.
Yeah, no,
You know,
I understand. Yeah, but no, as long as you know these things and you plan for them, there's always a way.
exactly. Measure twice, cut once. Oh
Great.
shit. Yeah, yeah, acid. So yeah,
Yeah,
that it's an interesting corollary. Like my understanding of that, the first time somebody ingested acid, the description they said was that like music, they could see the music that they were listening to, and they were like, "That's weird. Maybe this chemical is what did it." And so they hooked up like with a like 25 times a normal dose of acid, and were like, "Cool, this totally that's what this was."
yeah, yeah. No, pretty much that's what. Yeah, I think he was when he was riding his bicycle home. He saw some different shades of colors of light and that sort of stuff, which wasn't normal, and he was really happy and calm and relaxed. So it was like, yeah, this is weird. Let's see what's going on with this substance that we're experimenting with or testing on. And
Yeah.
then, yeah, he realized that it was what it was. And I think I'm just trying to remember the timeline of, because eventually at some point he ended up actually kind of cautioning people against it, saying that this is a really powerful substance and you got to be respectful of it. You can't just it's not just for fun, or it's not something to play with. And that was his thing, that if you actually use the substance correctly, it can open many doors for you. But at the same time, if you don't and you're not responsible, then it could actually be quite dangerous.
Yeah.
That was I think his final, because he lived about 90 years or something, I guess. But yeah, in the final years, the final decade or so, he was really concerned that no one really, or some people don't really quite understand what they're working with. And he
Yeah.
thought that it was a cautionary tale, I guess.
Yes. It's
Yeah.
interesting, actually. Now that I think about it, like they're apparently they're opening up a uh, clinic in Calgary here for
Yeah.
psilocybin, which I
Hmm.
think is fucking awesome. I'm psilocybin doesn't have much effect on me. Not that I ever do drugs, because that would be morally wrong and reprehensible.
Of
But
course. Of course.
but psilocybin and the first time I did mushrooms, I had this most incredible, beautiful, ended really horribly, but genuinely good overall. Ever
Yeah.
since then, I've had no interaction. Like whenever I take it, I'm just like, cool, but acid. Man, acid. Not that I do drugs, but I do acid. I really enjoy it.
Yeah.
But I don't. But I
Yeah.
don't do drugs. Don't do drugs, kids.
No, no. Don't really touch that stuff, but it's very good. It's a good time for sure. Yeah.
Yep.
No, it. I've had many, many memories. Let's say, you know,
Yes.
um,
Yes.
and I'm a big fan. I'm actually kind of not so much because of the fact that it doesn't affect me or anything like that, like the psilocybin, but I just prefer the effects of acid as opposed to the
Yep.
mushrooms, because I mean, at the end of the day, they're natural poison. That's what they are, right?
Oh yeah.
They make you sick and then you hallucinate. So I don't really like that sickness feeling. And then also, to me, the acid actually is it's more powerful. So I like the
Yeah.
effects better. Yeah.
And I think it's
But I don't
also.
see. Hmm.
Go ahead.
No,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say. I think it's also, um, with mushrooms, it's not really like standard, right? So you can have mushrooms that you think are going to be weak that are stronger, etc. Whereas acid's acid. It's pretty much like you know what you're getting.
Well, I mean, there's 2 points on that. For most part, it is correct that it is kind of similar. But I've noticed that, or I've come across some that are dosed differently. So with the hit, you're getting more than the others milligram wise,
Yes.
and then you probably know about this too. there is, in the process of making it, in the chemical process, I think there is one part or a couple of points in the process that you can make a mistake and you end up actually creating a different molecule that is deadly. So there's also
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, chemistry's a real bitch. It can go south on you pretty quick. Just watch Breaking Bad.
Or that, yes. Yeah. But anyway, no, it definitely is interesting. Oh, and I was going to say that there's a bunch of people who actually do them together. And they say that, like, for example, if you're on acid and you do mushrooms, then the effects of mushrooms get really amplified, or it's kind of a different feeling, that sort of stuff. I wouldn't really know because I haven't done that, but yeah, there's some people who do the same thing. Just either do mushrooms and then drop acid, or vice versa. And they love it. So I don't know.
Dealing with my phone real quick. Stupid little. There we go. The floppy thing that makes it so it stands up so you can see right up my nostrils.
Oh, yeah. Perfect.
Switch headphones real quick. There we go.
Yeah.
It's weird if I have like the computer headphone and the phone headphone. There's that slight lag, and it's like talking on, when someone puts you on speakerphone and you're talking and you can hear yourself coming back, and it's really, you go, I don't know why I'm talking like this.
Yeah. No, I know how that goes. Actually, sometimes I've noticed this happened to me a couple of times that one of my ears, I think it's usually the couple of times that happened, it was the one ear, it gets kind of plugged, and then everything is echoing and vibrating, like whatever you're hearing. So that's even worse. It's kind of similar to that, but it's just inside your head, so it's really annoying. So,
yeah, that doesn't sound awesome at all.
No.
Yeah, no, I'm not a fan. Not a fan of that. I'm a huge enjoyer of when conversations don't suck, and you don't get confused by the things that are happening around you. And it's funny because technology is teaching me, like when I was a kid, my brother-in-law has some hearing loss, and he's one of those people that when he goes into a like a bar setting or whatever, he can't follow conversation because there's just too much overall noise. And he only gets little bits and pieces of the conversation, and I understood that logically, but then you live through technology and you're like, no, I get it now, get it.
Yep. No, it's funny, and I think it's kind of different between men and women too. As in, men usually get more confused.
Yep.
By different sounds and different things going on, so you can't really focus on. You can't listen to more than one source of sound, or you get confused and whatnot. But then women, it's kind of like multitasking. It's easier for them to actually kind of focus on what they want to listen to without being overwhelmed, and then kind of pick and choose between different things going on. So we kind of have a disadvantage there, but
yeah, that's why we need a men's rights movement right there, because otherwise women get to hear things better, and it's not fair. Just kidding. I'm joking.
No, I know. Yeah, I was gonna say they already do. So what the hell? But
you know what though? Like, that's such a joke of a movement. There are legitimate, like there's a blogger that I used to read quite a bit, Ali Fogg, he describes himself as a men's right advocate, but he also says that with like a disgust in his voice, because he's like, I'm not Roosh V, I'm not these people that are like, shitty toxic men who are like, we need to make sure that we have a movement so bitches don't get all the stuff. And it's more like, there are legitimate issues. There are in society, there are areas where, like with regards to family law and things like that, there are certainly circumstances where fairsies doesn't happen in the guy's case, and so that disparity should be considered and possibly resolved, and not the point of my topic, but when they're like, we need a man's parade or a straight pride parade, like, fuck off. Yeah. Do you really need to just walk around with your dick out?
Yeah, basically. It seems like it's more like we're not getting as much attention, or the attention that we like or we think we deserve. So this is a way to kind of get the attention.
Yeah.
or get the spotlight on us.
And that fragility, right?
Hmm.
That
Yeah.
sense of like, if somebody gets something, like they move forward one peg in society and we don't move, then we're like, but that's not fair. They're getting it easier now. I hate
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
shit.
Right. Or that there are certain things that they could do or say or whatever, and now they can't, and they're like, "What the hell?" Now we need a movement to present us or represent us, because we can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
just
I love that shit. I love when conservative people are like, you can't even be conservative anymore without the world stopping you. And like, oh, really, dude? Let's compare leftist
yeah,
YouTuber numbers to right-wing YouTuber numbers and see who's being more successful in the world of media. Let's look at Fox's ratings and see if we're, like, maybe you're not being canceled. Maybe you're just like such an asshole that
mhm.
even your own people are like, dude, you went too far.
Right. No, exactly. Yeah. No, it goes back to the fact that they were easily and comfortably doing certain things for so long that they feel like it's just the right and it's part of who they are and their lifestyle. And now that they can't or they're forced not to do them, then there's something wrong.
Yeah, the
They're being
world's no
oppressed.
longer they're no longer as fair. I remember my dad said to me once, he's like, the most abused group is the white Christian. And I was like, dude, are you fucking kidding me? Like, you have everything. You cannot even like, and I legit like my dad's not a right wing guy. Although I
Mhm.
guess he's getting older and he's starting to be like maybe evolution wasn't true and he's going to like a crazy people's church and stuff. Hi, Dad. Hope you're
Fair enough.
watching. But like he was always a very left wing guy. He was a teacher. He was active in the teachers union. But then he would say these things, and it was not necessarily conservatism as much as it was white fragility and that idea that
Mhm.
that he was losing out. And it's funny because like I look at this, I have privilege. I'm a honky. I'm a middle class honky. I'm a dude. I have like nothing but privilege. For me, when I told people like, "Hey, I'm an atheist," no one's gonna fucking burn me at the stake for it. No one
Mhm.
gave a shit. Um,
Yeah.
you know, that's and that my reaction to when I quote unquote lose ground is okay, cool. Like I'm still in a good place. I didn't lose
Right.
anything here. Someone else
Yeah.
got elevated a little bit. This is what should happen. The cool
Yeah.
life that I have and the opportunities that I have shouldn't just belong to me. They should belong to everybody. I don't fucking care. But there are
Yeah.
people who are like, the minute somebody else gets like when women got the right to vote and people were like, well, this is crazy. This is men are suffering now. Like, how the fuck are you suffering when someone
Yeah.
else also can do the thing that you can do? Like that's just stupid.
Yeah. No, exactly. Yeah, it's just that there's change, and then they can't do certain things that they used to, which they just by the fact that they did it all the time and there was no issues, they assumed that it was their right, and it was just part of the way things were. So now
Yeah.
that it needs to be changed and they can't do it anymore, now there is something wrong and they're being discriminated against, or that's something like that. But as you said, if you're not a complete douchebag, then you see this, understand, even if you didn't at the beginning. When you talk to some people or whatever, you read this and that, you realize that okay, yeah, this makes sense.
Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't say this, or maybe we shouldn't treat people this way, or that's or this and that, whatever the case may be. But they can't see it that way. They just see it from a point of view that, oh yeah, well, we used to do this, but now we can't. So what the fuck?
Yeah.
Someone is forcing things down our throats.
Yeah, like the
But
people who complain
yeah,
about the fact that they can't use, hateful racial epithets anymore because the goddamn social justice warriors will cancel me. Well, yeah,
yeah,
you'll get canceled in giant quotation marks because you're a dink.
right.
You're being a dink. You know,
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
punishing people for being dinks is okay.
Yeah, definitely. You know, the depending on the level of how much of a deep shit you are, you could go to jail for whatever you did, or you could suffer the consequences in a social setting of saying things that you shouldn't be saying or treating people the wrong way.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it's just been so engraved in the way of life of some people that they feel like that it's like you go down and tell people you can't eat hamburgers anymore, and everyone's just losing their mind. They feel like that it's kind of something like that. It's the right to eat hamburgers, and you can't tell
Yeah.
them not to. Yeah.
Well, pardon me. It's my right to smoke coming out there. But yeah, like I agree, and I think it's fucking the when like people's reactions to vegans always impress me with how like stupid we can be as a species. If somebody chooses to not eat meat, not eat dairy, not eat eggs, not eat whatever the fuck, like okay, right on, and that's not
Yeah.
me going like oh more for me. Like I get it. You probably have opinions on the subject that I may not share.
Right.
Or I may share, but are not enough for me to be a better person than I am. That's probably more
Whatever it
accurate.
may be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the notion that like your first reaction should be like, but bacon, or like why do you justify why you choose not to eat the things that I eat? Like, what the fuck is wrong with people?
Yeah. Yeah.
I
No, I
imagine,
agree.
yeah, I
Yeah.
imagine that you and I
No.
eat different things. And I'm not talking about, well, you're not a white fella, so you probably don't eat the cheeseburgers. I mean, like, I make a lot of pasta, maybe you don't make pasta, maybe you eat more salads than I eat. Who fucking knows? I would never
Who
once
knows?
be
Yeah.
like, justify your choices to me. You've got 3 minutes.
Oh, well, no, and that's all it is. At the end of the day, I personally think that the argument for going vegetarian or vegan is valid.
Totally.
I don't think anyone, yeah, in their right mind can hear the evidence and see what they're talking about and say that no, this is wrong. I think the problem is that a lot of people are so attached to eating meat that they just can't accept the fact that maybe it's not the right way. Now, with all that said, I'm not a vegan or a vegetarian. I still eat meat, but even if you don't want to become a vegetarian, I think that the majority of our diet should be plant based. And
Yep.
then, of course, you add the meat here and there, but I don't think we should be eating meat 3 times a day every day. I don't
Oh,
think
yeah,
that's
yeah.
a really proper and healthy diet. Now, if you go back to the animal kingdom, the majority of the animals are herbivores, unless they're carnivores and predators. And so, if you look at, for example, chimps and monkeys, they, for the most part, eat vegetables and plants and everything. But there's also evidence that they do eat meat if
Hmm?
the opportunity arises and if they're hungry enough. I think chimps actually are cannibals. Not
Yep.
only they eat meat, they eat each other. There has been evidence and records of that.
Yep.
So it's not completely unnatural from a species and sort of animal way of life, thinking that okay, we're the only people or the only species that actually eat both. So there are other species that do the same, but just eating meat, I think, for us, just going back on our evolutionary history, I don't think that's natural.
Yeah.
And also, all the issues that it causes, with the farming of the animals and providing the meat, that I can't even count all of them. I think there's probably like 20 different things that are consequences of the farming. Then it makes sense. Yeah, I can't really argue with anyone that wants to be a vegan or vegetarian and say that you're wrong, because I understand and agree with where they're coming from. I just have kind of a different idea about what the diet needs to be. So I don't really get the people who get so worked up about vegetarians and vegans and just kind of, as you said, go on like there was this restaurant in Toronto, I think, and the guy there were some, I think, protests outside the restaurant, and he just brought a piece of meat and started carving it and cutting it in front of these people. I'm like, I mean, what are you trying to prove here?
Yeah.
What was
We've
it about
established
that?
you're an asshole. Like,
Yeah, that's all it did. Yeah, exactly. So no, I'm with you. I mean, at the end of the day, even if you completely disagree and you think it's invalid, there's better ways of dealing with it than trying to get your point across to other people. And there's nothing wrong with actually not getting your point across either. Just whatever they want to do, let them do it. You do
yeah.
whatever you want to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
At the end
I
of the
have
day.
I have a daughter who's vegan, and often will post the vegan posts on Facebook about, like, how monstrous it is to eat meat and stuff. And I don't disagree. Like, I eat meat, and I can't explain why I do. I certainly don't base my diet around meat, but I eat meat every day, one meal a day for sure. And I am very well aware of the fact that I would not lose anything if I was to switch to a vegetarian or a vegan diet. You just have to be a little more creative in how you get certain nutrients. And I think really that's why I don't do it, is because I'm shitty at that. I like legit. I don't. If I buy vegetables, what I'm buying is a pile of rot. There are certain vegetables I cook with regularly, like peppers and onions and stuff, that I can buy and no problem. But if I buy a head of lettuce, what I'm buying is compost, because that is exactly what I'm going to have. One sandwich with a piece of lettuce on it, and then I'm going to be throwing that motherfucker in the compost bin.
Yeah.
I don't know why I am this way. I'm totally this way. I know that if I became a vegan or a vegetarian, that I simply wouldn't do that, because I'd be looking at my vegetables as an important part of my diet. I wouldn't just be like, well, I've got peppers and onions, I guess I'm set for the month.
Fuck the lettuce.
Yeah, stupid lettuce, thinking it knows more than we do.
Exactly. Although, speaking of that, I think the lettuce is mostly water anyway, so
Yeah.
yeah. But no, and you're right. If you want to do that, and you want to do it right, especially around our ages, you got to find a way to kind of supplement the proper vegetables for the meat that you're cutting out. Otherwise, you're going to wreak havoc on your system, either
Absolutely.
momentarily or temporarily, or permanently. Who knows? But yes, just you got to use your head when you want to do things like that. You can't just decide to go about doing it and then forget about everything else.
100%. I love that you said our ages, like we're remotely close in age, because I'm pretty sure I got at least a decade on you.
You might think that I'm a little bit younger than I am, maybe then, because I think we should be fairly close.
Do you have the same magic that I have? Because, like, I don't have gray hair, but I'm old as shit.
Well, no, I don't have the magic, so I don't know what's going on here.
So I'm
definitely
47.
So okay, well, I'm 40, so close enough.
I was close too. When I said I probably got a decade on you, 7 years is pretty close to a decade.
That's true. It is close to a decade, but it's not quite a decade. And,
No.
Yeah, you probably didn't think I was in my 40s.
I would not have thought you were in your 40s. I would have thought you like mid 30s. You're a very well preserved fella.
I don't know how that's worked out. I don't really do anything about it, so it's just
Totally get that, man.
Yeah, I don't think I can say I have particularly good genes either, so I don't know what's the story.
Yeah, like my grandfather on my father's side was like white gray by like 30 kind of thing, and my grandfather on my mother's side was, he went white fairly early. Like I don't know how the fuck this is happening. Maybe my milkman had better genes or something. I don't know. Just kidding. I look like my dad.
Well, either that, or in the process you ended up with what they call it.
The best recessive genes.
Yes, yeah. So maybe that happened. Who knows?
Yeah, I am a mutant. I'm gonna share this with you. Literally, I am a mutant. I was born with the mutant power to not have wisdom teeth. And so so that's that. They claim that this is an evolutionary step forward. And I believe that because it benefits my worldview.
Sure.
You know, so did you have wisdom teeth?
I do have wisdom teeth, and for the longest time, I kept getting actually by the dentist complimented on them, how nice and fine they look or whatever, which is out of the ordinary. I guess I didn't know until they started complimenting on them. But over the last couple of years, it's been kind of changing, and I sometimes feel like I wish I didn't have them. Yeah. But
So
that being said,
okay. Go ahead.
So that being said, I do have two teeth on the top, I think. Yeah, on the top, missing from birth. I can't remember which ones they are. What are the ones beside the canines?
The incisors?
Yeah.
You don't have
whatever they call it.
Yeah. You don't have the fangs.
Well, no, I do have the fangs, but the ones behind them.
Oh, so those. It goes incisors, canines, molars. So you're missing a couple of molars.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool. I found out when it comes to the topic of wisdom teeth. I found out. Hang on, I got to give a teenage boy a cigarette because that's what we do here.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
Love you.
Love you.
You're a good dad.
but apparently, so my friend Dongo. I don't know if you've ever met Dongo. He was the drummer in my band Ella Fitzgerald, and I'm not sure if you've ever met him or not. But so he is. Yeah, so he is a doctor of paleoanthropology, and he was telling me about the purpose of wisdom teeth and why we have them and why we no longer need them and why they're vestigial, essentially, because at some point they would have been beneficial. Oh. And what they've done is they've examined the skulls of early humans and pre-humans, and where they have the wisdom teeth, and what they found is the jawbones are often really, like, there's all these like micro fractures that have been healed over time, and what the theory is that they used to give babies and young children bones to gnaw on. If a kid's teething, you give them a bone, right?
Right.
And by biting on the hard bone all the time, you end up with these little micro fractures in your jaw, which allows your jaw to basically make the space for your wisdom teeth to come in properly. And because we give our babies soft food and like they'll have me, ground up fucking peas and carrots and shit, we're not doing that to our jaws, so all of a sudden these wisdom teeth are a fucking problem. They don't have space to come in because we haven't fucked up our jaw from gnawing on bones. Again, I don't know if it's true. I'm by no means an anthropologist, but Dongo is, and he's smarter than me, so I take his word for it.
I think we can trust that because it kind of doesn't make, because if you're talking about microfractures, you need a lot of them to kind of even make room for half an inch or an inch consistently over a period of time for that to happen. So just thinking about it makes it.
Our jaw does have some space, right? Like that. That's why we have these two extra teeth at the back that could come in, and they're usually it's not hugely like, oh my god, they're forcing other teeth out of the way or whatever, as much as there's just not quite enough space there. And so and it's not, again, like, one of the common things that people get wrong if you're watching at home. Evolution isn't about decisions that were made. Evolution is about flukes that worked out. So it's less that, like, probably what happened is over time our jaw narrowed, and this sort of compensated for having the extra teeth that we would have these, our kids would be gnawing on these bones, and we didn't even know what we were doing. Everything worked out okay. And then now we're all fucked up and, eating pablum and shit. So we're not doing that. And so therefore, I am a mutant, genetically superior, homo superior. I'm not bragging about the fact that I'm a superhuman, but, facts.
Of course, yeah. And, maybe you are, and that's fine,
Yeah, I'm just waiting for my eye lasers, right? It'll happen.
Ooh, I think if you concentrate and think about it really hard, it makes it happen faster. That's what I heard.
It's weird because, like, I was reading X-Men comics going through puberty, and literally was like, there would be days where I'd be like, like I think all kids do, I'd be sitting there and I'd be reading a comic book and be like, okay, I'm just gonna fucking clear my mind. I'm gonna focus all my teenage rage on how much I hate the thing that's in front of me, and like, and it never happened. It never happened, Vod. It turns out comics are bullshit. Just kidding, comics. I love you.
I'm not actually a big fan of comics, but maybe you need the life experience to go with that focus. Not just the teenage angst. Maybe it's the life experience. Maybe the comics were kind of not telling you the whole truth.
I agree in theory, but it's hard to know. It's hard to know because comic books taught me a lot of important things, right? They certainly taught me about genetic mutations, and they taught me about good and evil. They taught me, honestly, about the civil rights movement. Comic books have done so many good things for my brain, so it's hard to accept that maybe comic books, lied to me about something.
Well, I didn't say they lied to you. I'm just saying that maybe they didn't tell you the whole thing.
They didn't give me the whole truth. They didn't tell me that special that while I'm staring at that thing, I also have to, like, do Morse code on the back of my neck or some shit. That like, that's the secret they're not telling you.
Well, yeah, and then maybe it depends on the type of Morse code or the message. And all that, it would make a difference. It's kind of a tricky subject.
Yeah, and I don't want to, because if we tell people, because you and I both know, we can shoot lasers out of our eyes, right? We know what the Morse code is, and it's, what its Latin words are that we have to type. But, for those that are watching at home, just keep trying. Could happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which comic was it? Maybe tell them which comic it was, and then they can kind of read through it at least, to kind of get themselves ready for it.
See, I read all of the comics. I can't tell you which one it was because I literally, I was that kid, and I'm still that guy. I've got a subscription on the old telephone to Marvel Unlimited, and
nice.
I love. Are you familiar with the app? I don't imagine you are if you're not a comic book guy. That was probably a dumb question. Essentially, like Marvel's back catalog. Yeah, there's no dumb questions, only dumb actors.
Exactly.
But basically, Marvel Unlimited gives you, for like $10 a month or whatever, it gives you access to the entire Marvel catalog from 6 months out. So, like, the last 6 months they don't give you because they want you to go to the store and buy the comics, and I get that. But, like, you can read Avengers #1 and, read all of the Avengers up to 6 months ago. And then every month you get the new ones or whatever. Like, I fucking love it. As a giant dork, it makes me happy. I'm not saying you should, but...
No, absolutely, yeah. That's impressive, actually, that they have the collection set up like that.
Oh, yeah.
So that's pretty cool. Yeah. I guess when I was a kid, I was kind of into it, but not crazy into it. I was a really big reader, but I was like reading all the weird classical literature and like the mythology of the Greeks and the Romans and the Persians and this and that and everything. So I feel like that kind of filled the void for me in that sense. That I was
Yeah.
kind of reading those instead of reading the comics when I was growing up. But I was familiar with it. And then the other thing is that I grew up in Iran, and there's not much of a comic culture there or comics culture there. It's not like you can go and find these or read them or anything like that. So there was part of it too. There was no access really
I
to
did
read
not
them. But at
know
the same
that.
time,
I didn't know
hmm?
that you grew up in Iran.
Oh yeah, yeah. I only moved here when I was 20.
That's cool. I never knew that about you.
Yeah,
That's totally
no,
interesting. So
I'm
that would have been Iran like during the Shah, or no, I guess during the Ayatollah, right?
yes, no, I'm not that old, my friend.
I don't have time in my head, so that's the issue.
Oh yeah,
Was it the
yeah,
Ayatollah
no,
or
yeah, yeah. So I was born after was it 2 years after the revolution? Yeah, 2 years. Yes, 2 years after the revolution. So I don't have any sort of even recollections of the Shah regime. And from what I know, the history and everything. The last couple of years wasn't really all that great anyway, especially the
yeah?
last year. So I would have had to be at least 7 or 8 years old at the time of the revolution to actually have any kind of understanding of how it was before then. Um, but yeah, no, I grew up in the what do you call it the Islamic theocracy,
Yeah.
which is I mean we can probably do another session of talk on that itself.
And we
Just
should. That would be fascinating. I would love to pick your brain about that.
cheers, man. Yeah, yeah, we can definitely look into that too. But yeah, no, it's pretty interesting. I mean, because like for example, at the time when I was growing up and I was like the first decade of my life, um, there's no direct influence from the Western cultures inside the country,
Yeah.
but like covertly, and if you go in people's houses, there are they still exist. You can't go to a store and buy the music cassette of or whatever is being released in the states or anywhere else. But if you know the right person, they can get you a copy.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of like that. So we were still, kind of in touch with the outside cultures, but it's not something that was being, openly practiced in the society.
Yeah.
So we were not out to lunch completely. I mean, there were some people who were completely out to lunch, but yeah, if you wanted to find, certain aspects of, for example, the music, the movies, that sort of stuff, it was interesting, now thinking back and looking back at what we were doing back in those days. It's when things are not open, you find all sort of ways to kind of keep in touch and, do things that you like to do, but you can't really do legally, I guess. And
Yeah.
I understand that it's kind of foreign concept to people who don't have to deal with that sort of stuff. You know,
Yep.
just imagine that you could go to jail for having a CD or a cassette or a VHS tape, basically,
Yeah.
of a movie.
Well, and I think that we don't understand enough about um, Iran during the Shah and how
Mhm.
very open Westernish in our sort of comparatively, and that change wasn't like overnight. There was a huge amount of change that came with the revolution. And again, I'm no expert. I read Whirlwind by James Clavell, so I think I know Iranian politics better than you, sir. But it was like there was an immediate change, and then there was a slow sort of progression of moving towards that what we think of as Iran today. And
Yeah,
from what I understand, what we think of as Iran today is actually like Iran from movies like Spies Like Us when we were kids. Like they're not. It's not. Iran is not like what we think it is. It is a
no,
much more awesome place. Just with a
no,
shitty government.
No,
But
exactly.
but what I wonder
Yeah.
is if we're not, sort of that far removed as we keep sort of stepping further and further towards right-wing Christian philosophy and the evangelical side of things, and um, that as a like, it's a requirement for government these days. I'm being
Hmm.
sort of facetious, but not really.
Yeah.
And like I see real parallels there. I see real parallels with, starting with that image of Iran pre the Ayatollah, and
Hmm.
the steady progression of losing Western viewpoints in favor of a more fundamentalist Islamic perspective. And again, please, if I'm wrong, please be like, dude, you are so stupid. Shut up.
No, 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 not at all. No, it's actually fairly accurate. But no, it's true, and that's one of the reasons that I'm vehemently against what's going on with these political Christian groups and parties and whatnot. Is that I can see the parallels, as you said, and the common features of the two, and I know that if you give these people more and more power, that's where it's going to end up being.
Yeah.
It's just no other way around it. It's going to be like that. Because I mean, just like let's go back to the '80s and the satanic panic at the time, and the fact that records had to put parental advisory on them.
Yep.
Is that really free? Not necessarily. I mean, they still put out the albums, but someone forced them to put something on it against
Yep.
their wishes.
Yep.
So that again, if you allow more of these people to get into control and get in charge, it's going to go towards that. And there's nothing at the time when that happens. You can't really do anything about it.
And
It's just
I
that's the
think
way.
there's like that particular every time this comes up in conversation with people, I always want to make sure that I drive home the point that that was Tipper Gore and her group who were not Republicans. They were
Mhm.
Democrats. They were
Yeah,
liberals, because liberals are just as fucking garbagey as conservatives when it comes to stuff like that. They're
yeah,
like slow motion conservatives, right?
right.
Versus guys like you and me, we're leftists. We're monsters.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, and it's funny because at the end of the day, I think they're all because even the liberals that you're talking about, the Democrats, they're still Christians. I mean, they're not
Yep.
atheists.
Yep.
So it makes me wonder: are they really that different? I mean, the difference that we perceive, is it just a show? Is it just uh, created to show that sort of or imply that sort of divide between them, that they're two different things, but at the same time they're actually the same?
Yep.
I don't know. I
I
mean.
if you look at like the subject of Barack Obama, we tend to be a little more reverential than I think we should when it comes to Barack Obama, because he was, if you compare the war side of just looking at war, Donald
Mhm.
Trump was a way more progressive leader than Barack Obama. Barack Obama was very much a war hawk, and I'm worried that we've got that with Biden. I absolutely agree. I think that like the conservatives or the Republicans are like really anti-progressive, and the
Mhm.
liberals or the Democrats are like, well, we're progressive. We kind of want the status quo, but every now and then we can, shave a little piece off for the people. Versus,
Yeah.
what I think the people in, by and large, because we are seeing a huge shift to the left without people understanding that they're shifting to the left. And I think the
Hmm.
people want that like NDP or farther left. They just don't know how to put that into words. And we're so used to the idea of there are only two choices. Like
Yeah.
my first time voting NDP was for Rachel Notley when she won. And I kind of felt weird. I felt like I was throwing away my vote at the time, because I was like, there's no way the NDP is ever going to win in Alberta.
Yeah. Yep. And then
Um,
yeah.
and then they did, and they were awesome.
Right.
and we had 4 years of
Yeah.
like we could breathe.
Hmm. Yeah.
But
No. Exactly. And you're right. Because if you look at the what the people on, I guess, close to the extreme right are saying and thinking and all that sort of stuff, if you kind of grab the bulk of it and forget all the other extra bullshit, it's the same thing. We're all saying that the government is garbage. These politicians are garbage, this and that, the other.
yeah,
The problem is that those guys think that, yeah, they're garbage, but they're kind of extremist right wing messiah is the answer. But we're saying that no, that guy is the same shit. It's just it's in different clothing, and you
yeah,
think it's different, but he's probably even worse. So there are certain sort of common elements, but unfortunately, most of those people are because since they get played on their prejudices and the fears and all that sort of stuff, it becomes really a kind of emotional entanglement with them, and they can't separate that from the fact that, okay, rationally speaking, you shouldn't go support those people, but since
yeah,
they cater to their insecurities, they feel more safe with that kind of support,
totally.
and being on that side. Yeah.
What I find interesting is that libertarian perspective that is all the rage these days among the kids with bow ties. Um, like I originally years and years ago I did a political compass test and I found out that I was a libertarian, left-leaning libertarian, but a libertarian.
Mhm.
And that's sort of a polite way of saying anarchist. Um,
Yeah. I was going to
I
say.
yeah, I believe in making the adjustment to the point where we don't need government anymore. And
Mhm.
when I hear especially evangelical Christian types, and they talk about libertarianism. They're like, I want freedom, I want my rights, I want all this stuff. Black people shouldn't be allowed in my neighborhood. And you're like, wait. You want your freedom.
Yeah.
You're not talking about all people's freedom because to you,
No.
they're not all people.
Mhm.
What you're saying is you want to have the right to live your life and life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, which I totally get.
Yeah.
But you know, people who use drugs should go to jail, and
Yeah.
people who have abortions are murderers. And and it's not even real things. Like they pick these topics like abortion, that is
Yeah.
literally just a like for I would guess 60 years has just been a button they push to rile people up. And
Mhm.
granted, like they are making steps, right? Places that are cutting access to abortions, they're not making abortions illegal. They're just like, oh yeah, but you got to drive 380 kilometers to get to the nearest abortion clinic. Things
Yeah.
like that. But
Exactly.
which is never a problem when their mistresses get pregnant. Um,
Mhm.
but you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like they're that sense of it's not about wanting small government. It's not about wanting responsible spending. It's about wanting
Yeah.
those things as it pertains to me,
Yeah.
right? So
Exactly.
like I'm just sorry, I'm going off. I'll let you talk for a
No.
second because I feel like I'm rambling.
No. Yeah. I was gonna agree because yeah, that's all it is. They just want to be able to do what they want. Um, keep all their money, whatever they're making, not have to worry about paying any taxes or anyone else, coming and taking any of it. So they want to keep all their money. They want to do whatever they want, and whatever that those two things do to other people, that's not really of concern to them. They don't
Yeah,
really care about that. Um, and of course, mostly if they're religious, they want to. Um, they want to limit everyone else's sort of activities and what they're doing in their lives based on their belief if they're religious, and if they're not, for whatever reason, a lot of them seem to be traditionalists. So they believe that you got to have a family. There's got to be a structured male female sort of couple with
yeah,
children. That's the stuff. So it is a weird kind of I don't. like if you're of that mindset, I understand if you're calling yourself a libertarian, but if you're not and you still call yourself that, there's something missing. You either don't really
Yeah.
quite understand it, or you are not a libertarian. You're just calling yourself that for whatever reason. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know.
I believe that like the term libertarian applies to the left view of libertarianism, and right wing libertarianism is just political selfishness.
Yep, makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. Good.
And I get it. Like, if you think about, like Dawkins always says, you're an atheist to, 500 gods, and I'm just an atheist to one more than you are. It's kind of the same thing. It's like I'm a libertarian, but just not only for me. I'm a libertarian for everybody.
Right.
So I support the right to bear arms. But I also support that there's a responsibility that comes with that, and that until such time as we act responsibly, there needs, like, as a society, there needs to be some kind of governmental oversight that says, you know what, maybe that person who has a criminal history of abuse and neglect should not have a gun. I don't want to come after the guns of the good regular folk. I want to come after the guns of the people who are fucking dangerous, and who like. Oh, I see. There's a comment here. Oh, Jim, their mistresses are special. Yes, back to the topic of abortion. Yeah, because that pregnancy is a different kind of pregnancy. Sorry.
Yes.
But yeah,
it's a work of God.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that shit because, again, like that whole concept of the theocracy and like, as an atheist, I am someone who is like the worst kind of white person, right? That's not fair. That's so not fair. I could be gay. I could be dating someone who wasn't white. Like, there's a lot of ways that these people could see me in even worse light than I am. But atheism don't help me now.
No.
And it's funny because I legitimately, I went through my angry phase as an atheist where I was like, I felt that I'd been lied to, and I was lashing out, and being like, I ran a blog that, like, literally I would do the daily Bible divination reading, and I would go through and read the things in the Bible and then write about why it was bullshit. And it was fun and it was awesome, but it was an asshole move. I know that now. And I was that foam at the mouth prick. But that was, where I'm at now. Like, if somebody has faith, fucking A. Congratulations. I'm so glad that works for you. Just don't let it hurt somebody else. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think we kind of got carried away here and talked a lot. So I kind of need to get going here. But I'll finish off. No, all good. Don't worry about it. But we should definitely schedule another one. But I will finish that off by saying that, look, I personally have absolutely nothing with people who are religious. Actually, I think if you are a person of faith and you believe in it personally yourself, it's a good thing. I think it actually helps a lot of people. There's nothing wrong with it. The only thing I have problems with is the organized religion, where you get either the churches or the mosques and the synagogues and all that sort of stuff as kind of a organization that's essentially, it's kind of a business front for most of them, really. It doesn't matter what the faith and religion they have. It's just, they live off the donations, they live off people giving them money, and that's the way they live their lives. And while they do that, it actually, they're not just, milking people of their money. They're doing causing harm because they exercise control over these people, over the matters that doesn't sit right with them. For example, abortion, this, that, the other, and then they try to influence other people's lives based on that, just because they don't agree with it, or they feel like it gives them more power and more control over the group of people they're interacting with. That's what I have major issues with. But if you are just a person who thinks, they have a personal connection with God in form of Christianity, Islam, Judaism, whatever it may be, that's absolutely fine and nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
If you just keep it to yourself and your God, it's okay. But when it becomes a group activity and you need to, discriminate against other people and oppress them just because they don't agree with what you're saying, then that's an issue. That's
Yeah.
a problem.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
All right, man. I'm sorry I rambled longer than we agreed to there.
No, it's all good. I don't think we agreed to anything, and it was kind of mutual. It was quite engaging. I completely forgot and lost track of time. So no, it was great. But yeah, definitely let's try to schedule another one and have another chat for sure sometime soon.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I'm really interested to like just talk about like growing up in Iran and stuff because it turns out I don't have a fucking clue what that would be like. All right.
I'll tell you the stories. No worries.
Absolutely, my brother. It was a fucking pleasure to see your smiling face again. I love you and I miss you. And when the world is not on fire, we will be in the same room again, and I'll give you the giantest hug.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, love you too, miss you too, and then soon enough we'll get together, have a beer, and shoot the shit.
Absolutely, my friend. All right, you have a great night. Take care, and I love you, and I'll see you soon. Ciao.
Cheers.